Hi, my name is Mark Biernot, and I'm a monetary economist. In this video, we're going to talk about the monetary situation in Russia, particularly the interest rate, but I'm also going to touch about debt and gold, because there's a lot of people criticizing the West for their monetary situation and calling it collapse, and how Russia is so much better monetarily, and it's not going to collapse. But I'm going to tell you a situation that Russian monetary situation is in dire straits right now. They have 16% interest rates. I'm a monetary economist. I understand the interest rate. What is the interest rate? Can anybody explain it to me? What it is an intertemporal rate. I prefer present goods over future goods. Everybody does. It's a psychological phenomena. We prefer a bird in hand than two in the bush, right? So Bombavec in the 1800s explained this, 1890. And Knut Wicksell, 1898, interest and prices went into this further and explained it. He explained that there's actually two interest rates, the natural rate of interest, which is the expected rate of return on newly created mobile capital, in particular on when barter exchange ratios exist, and the bank rate of interest. That means if the interest rate in Russia is 16%, the profit rate must be 16% to have money macroequilibrium. Because in a real economy, because if I want to open up a pizza shop, I'm not going to take a loan out at 16% unless I can earn 16, 17, 18, 19, 20%, right? So there you have it. Money macroequilibrium exists when the natural rate of interest, the expected return on capital, equals the bank rate. Now, the Swedish economists like David Davidson, Eric Lindahl, and Knut Wicksell, Gunnar Myrdal, they saw it as an explanation for price movements. When there's a disharmony between the natural rate and the bank rate, it would create a cumulative process, where the Austrians spun it as a business cycle theory. Okay? Ludwig von Mises and Friedrich A. Hayek. It's a business cycle theory. But either way, when there's a disequilibrium between the natural rate and the actual bank rate, then it's disequilibrium and everything goes sideways. So let me tell you a story. My father, when the interest rates were high in the U.S., way back when, he owned a 20% treasury, long-term treasury. And not only that, it was highly leveraged, like on a few $1 million. My goodness, if he just kept that, because I don't know how much money would have resulted. But all the experts told him to sell, we don't know. So if you believe in Russia, if you believe Russia's going to win this geopolitical event and everything's going to come out smelling like roses, maybe you want to invest in that 16% Russian interest rate. It's probably, when you actually buy the long-term bond in Russia, it's probably like, basis points below that, but that's the bank rate, 16%. You put your money where your mouth is, because Russia's not going to win this, and it's 0%, in my opinion, humble opinion, subjective, 0% chance. I'm not investing in the Russian ruble. In 1998, they exchanged it at 1,000 to 1. Could happen again. Why not? History repeats itself. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So the interest rate, we have a disequilibrium interest rate in Russia. There's something funny going on monetarily. Money creates systemic effects which have shockwaves all through the economy and has effects on the real sector. Now you say, well, other countries have high interest rates. Yeah, Zimbabwe has a high interest rate. Argentina, Venezuela, and Russia. But, interest rate, yeah. The U.S., Canada, the U.K., Switzerland, Denmark, Iceland, they have low interest rates. Who do you think is in a better monetary situation? Just based on 10,000 feet level, looking at countries with high interest rates versus low interest rates. If they have high interest rates, it tells me either inflation is rampant, it's not like the 7.2, 4%, or whatever their nonsense is spinning, or people don't trust anything there, and they don't have confidence in the Russian economy. And the Russians, they have two reasons to jack it up. Either one, they want to keep the ruble from falling and collapsing so they can buy toys or whatever they buy from North Korea. Or two, they're trying to bring the Soviet Union, USSR 2.0, so, it squelches out and dampens all private business expenditures and activity. Nobody's going to buy or borrow at 16% in Russia. so they can bring on this centralized planning. That's Russian monetary economy at the interest rate. The interest rate is the center, it's the price. Bixel said it was the fusion between the real world and the monetary world. Well, what about gold? A lot of people say, the Russians are on the gold standard. No, the Russians are not on the gold standard. They have a lot of gold. So what? Ghana has a lot of gold. Brazil has a lot of gold. South Africa has a lot of gold. Does that mean that's a great country? I'll tell you who doesn't have gold. Ireland, Luxembourg, right? Sweden, Norway, they don't have gold. You know, and they seem pretty good to me. You can even say Malaysia, Singapore. A lot of countries don't have gold. So, you know, if gold standard means, and I'm kind of a proponent of the classical gold standard, but that's another story in other times. I can go to the bank and take a ruble and they give me gold for that. Anything else is just smoke and mirrors. So one, the interest rate tells me it's a huge symptom for the body economy of Russia. If I'm a doctor and I look at high interest rates and a disequilibrium and panic, I think there's something funny going on. My economic diagnosis, if I look at, you know, people saying, oh, they have gold, doesn't mean anything. Gold's a piece of metal. The economies get rich because people want to make the world a better place. They're creating value in the real economy, in the real sector, whether it be Google, Ford Motor Company, whether it be growing purple sweet potatoes, novelty things, whether it be Disney creating happiness for people. When people use their minds in creative, positive ways, Adam Smith, free trade, comparative advantage, specialization, technology, organization. In the West and capitalistic countries, we have great communication and organization. I worked in business many years of my life. It's amazing to see people communicating and you know, doing metrics and looking at productivity and organizing. In Russia, it's all top down. Okay, so what about debt? Well, you, in the West, you have such high debt. We in Russia, the Russian soul, Rushki Duka. You don't understand how great this is. Vilki Duka. Dusha. No. Yeah, countries like the Free Democratic Republic of Congo, Haiti, Afghanistan, Botswana, and Russia have low debt-to-GDP ratios. Horrible countries like Iceland. You know, the U.S., Canada, they have high debt-to-GDP ratios. But let me just tell you, there's more to the economy than debt-to-GDP ratios. Per Adam Smith, if you believe in capitalism, you believe the economy is driven by people working in positive ways to create value for each other with free trade and openness and friendship. It's not about Haiti, Congo, Afghanistan, Botswana, and Russia keeping a low debt-to-GDP ratio. I doubt those are true. Russia claims they have a deficit, expenses rather, of $350 billion. I mean, my goodness, that's almost Powerball. Have you ever seen Powerball lately? That's nothing. It's a fabrication. The central bank and the budget office in Russia are telling stories, weaving Russian fairy tales. Just like the fairy tale about the Russian Dukha. The mysterious, oh, you Westerners don't understand the Russian soul. No, I don't understand the Russian budget. How people believe that they really have such a low budget and low expenses. It's baloney. You know, and again, about that Russian soul, just to remind you guys, only 3% of the Russians go to church weekly. I wouldn't say much for that. The last time I saw Russians on vacation, you know, we were at this buffet. They packed themselves at the buffet. Then they were stuffing bread rolls in their pockets so they could take. They're sneaking it, looking both ways, you know, really suspiciously, so they could sneak those bread rolls back to the hotel room. Is that the Russian soul you're talking about? Okay, so you know, what is Russia about? It's about centralization, Pan Am, Hunger Games. At the Capitol, you see YouTubers saying everything's fine. It's not fine. You've got a budget, GDP, debt to ratio right there with Haiti and Congo, and yet I don't believe the fabrication of the numbers coming out of the Office of the Budget of Russia. You've got high interest rates that's creating monetary disequilibrium and a cumulative process based on the ideas of Knut Wicksell, Hayek, Mises, Lindau, David Davidson. You've got monetary disequilibrium that creates systemic effects all through the economy. And you've got a lot of gold, but it's not a gold standard. Don't give me that they're on a gold standard. They have this. Yeah, South Africa, Ghana's got a lot of gold. That doesn't mean anything. And the countries that don't, it's called the resource curse. I'd rather not have gold. I'd rather not have resources. Then you have to use the greatest resource in the universe, your human brain. So one of my pet peeves is there's not a lot of transparency in the Russian economic situation, and monetary situation says it. So if you guys want to make an argument that you believe in the monetary strength of Russia, the Russian soul, Russian duka, tajemnice, Vilki Duki, maybe you should have watched my last video on their plumbing situation, then put your money where your mouth is and invest in Russia. Me, I'm going to, that BRICS thing, it's ridiculous. Me, I'm going to stay with the euro, the dollar, okay, the zloty, the pound, the Swiss franc. I'm going to stay with the interest rates here because usually the profit rate in any developed countries are about 7% after you factor out and take in real factors, and that's about where our interest rate is, maybe 6, 7, 8%. But it's not 16% interest rate like in Russia. That is a symptom, a red flag that concerns me because the Russian monetary situation is about to collapse. It looks all fine and copacetic right before the fall. Now, the good news is, I don't mind if it does, because it just speeds up the process that we can start healing the planet and making the world a better place. When the bad actors are replaced with transparent democracies, honesty, goodness, then the world starts to become a better place. And the vision of Adam Smith, who was a moral philosopher, who wanted to make the better place, we can all start living the lives in acceptance and love in the way that we were made to live this life. We can focus on the good things in life, not 16% interest rates in Russia. All right, enough of that. Okay? I'm preaching to the choir to a lot of you guys, I know. But my name is Mark Biernat. I'm a monetary economist. Have a great day. Thank you very much.